So I've got a habit of telling you about Etsy sales after I've already packaged the item and then saying that I'll put a picture up of it and then not doing it. So I'm really happy that I sold this. Someone just purchased it last night on Etsy, and I haven't done a whole bunch of portraits lately, especially this past year. This is one of the last ones I did, and it was 2019, or like last year, for an exhibition that had to do with MK Ultra and stuff. And like I painted over all the rest of the portraits that I did and stuff for that exhibition because this one could stand on its own. Like Charlie Manson on his own is a symbol, means something to people, and also it was the best painting out of all the ones that I did. The conceptual stuff needed the support from those other portraits and lands. Well, one was kind of a cityscape or something. I don't know how to explain it. To support the concept, they are necessary. But this has its own concept and doesn't need all the rest of the stuff to support it. Anyway, I kind of explained on Etsy what the exhibition was about anyway, and a little bit about what I was going for. So I'm just happy someone bought it because it's like, oh, I'm realizing more and more and more that people like get to me more than I think they will or should, or more than I thought they would. Because like there's things that I like believe in, art related or design related or whatever. I'm like, this is like cool, like the spray paint tip necklaces. No one says anything negative about them ever in person, and that's obviously in person. It's different than the anonymity of being online. But I get compliments on those things, and then online I post them, and then it's like I never get more reactions to posts than when I post that, and it's just people shitting all over it. And same thing with this. Like I had negative reactions to this. Like the one time I think I put it on the buy and sell pages in like Lethbridge, and it was like, oh my goodness, like I don't know how to explain it. Like there was a huge concept behind Charlie Manson, and painting his portrait I don't think automatically is glorifying him as like this person. And even the title, it's just called Charles. So people are going to take that in different ways, and some people like might be into that MK Ultra thing that I was talking about, and some people might be like, yeah, I love Charles Manson because he killed all these people. I'm like, okay, well, that's on you, I guess. I don't know, there's a lot that goes into that, and I definitely don't want to start apologizing for my art, especially because I know my agenda, and I know what I was doing when I made it, and I know why I'm putting it up for sale, and I know that there's a possibility that someone who is into it for the wrong reasons might buy it. But what are they going to do with it? It's not like selling something that can be used for nefarious purposes. They would just be enjoying it, and they would have their mental state regardless of whether or not they buy this or not. Anyway, I'm happy to sell it because it's one of those ones that I believed in, that I really like. I felt like I did a good job on it. I just really like the piece a lot in its presentation and skill and ability and stuff. And I felt like it was worthy of the sale. So having someone actually validate that feels nice, even though I don't need that validation. Like I still kept it. I didn't paint over it. I have pieces from years and years ago that I still have up for sale because I believe in them. And it's nice when someone is like, hey, I believe in that too. So this is what I'm going to be packaging up and shipping off right away. Hello. I've just never been in here before. I'm not looking for a specific color or anything, so I know I'm going to take some of those for sure. But it's just for canvas. I'm just looking for I just need like a background color for canvas, and what we've been doing just isn't financially working out. Because we're using spray paint. We use really, really good quality spray paint. Like we can't even buy it in the cities. We order it. It's quick and it dries fast and it's great coverage and it's thick and it's great colors. But it's expensive. Then we thought, well, we'll try some cheaper spray paint.
Yeah.
And then that is not good quality. So then we're getting drips and everything else and whatever. And I was like, well, it's quicker to use this other spray paint, but it's really expensive, and then we have got to pay for shipping and all this. I was like, it might take longer, but why don't we just, because I mean, the biggest reason we want to coat it first is so that we're not wasting our like really expensive like acrylics, like because it'll get soaked into the canvas a little more than if we just like lay down one layer of any color,
and it works.
And we'll cover it up for the most part anyway. So
that makes sense to me.
That's what I'm looking for. All right. So this is the stuff I picked up at Sherwin-Williams, which is their logo is freaking amazing. By the way, Cover the Earth. How amazing is that logo? It's the best thing I've ever seen in my life. But yeah, I picked up some mist tints. I'm hoping you would have heard what I said in the store about why we're wanting these. Randy and I have tried some different things, and I've had some different ideas over the course of time for covering the backgrounds. So, I mean, when you got big pieces, and we mainly use acrylic in these little golden acrylic tubes that are 2 ounces, sometimes that 2 ounce tube, like, I don't have any out right now, but a 2 ounce tube can be like $25. And we've got stuff like this, and we want to use those paints because they're like really great paints. They're expensive. So in order to make that paint travel further, we paint the background first with something, so that it just isn't, the canvas by itself isn't just soaking it up. Like, it travels smoother and further on a canvas that's already been painted with something. So I like, one time I was like, oh, I'll just pick up some cheap like black paint from Michael's and maybe I'll do that. Now there's this thing with underpaintings that like some people say, like, yeah, the color you put underneath is going to affect the top layer of paint and whatever else. A lot of that is more oil paint, but still, maybe we want some of this color to show through. Maybe not. So that's where the mist tints come in. And for painting a background, just get it all one color or something, and then we can go over top of it and do whatever. Because if we spray paint it, this is a crappier spray paint, but it's still like $8 for that one can, and it took one can just to do this size, which is I think 32 by 32 or something. So like one can of spray paint wouldn't necessarily cover this thing, which is a big boy. That one used like a full can. That's the same size as the yellow. But, you know, we've got these beautiful, expensive collection of Montana now. We don't want to kill a whole can on a background if we don't have to. You know, we just don't have that much money. We're not selling enough work to really like recoup our costs necessarily. So this is kind of this is a really great solution. This thing cost me, it was cheaper than a can of paint, than a can of spray paint. And this will be able to cover many canvases. So I want to get like a collection of some different mist tints and colors, keep them here, and it'll take a little longer before it's dry and ready, and it's a little more labor intensive because then you got to clean the brush and everything. But once it just gets worked into the routine, it should be great and much more of a financial, you know, a smarter financial decision. We'll see what it looks like too, because obviously with the brush versus like a just like brushless smooth finish with spray paint, all we see is the texture underneath, right? It's gonna be different, but I'm hoping that it'll still be just fine and great, and we'll see. At that corner, yeah. Lethbridge Monolith 2020. Here's what I know. Here's what I thought. Let me go there first. The other locations of these things and the looks of them seem much more significant and also impressive. The pictures that I saw of ours that were being shared on Facebook before I went looked a little smaller and just didn't seem as solid and impressive. Because of the location being here, I assume it's a copycat. We have, Rust Rock Cathedral, pretty cool art project, got left up there. It's public, it's great. We have some people doing some things that are cool like that. I'm assuming someone just wanted to do a tongue-in-cheek thing and be like, oh, I'm gonna put one up. Maybe a couple people. Because I don't feel like our location is that significant as some of these other places. So I went to check it out, as you saw, and it seems very cheaply made. It is not like the other ones look like. Here's the thing, the other ones I'm like, oh, that's really cool, and I never read anything. I just looked at pictures, and they look a lot more reflective, a lot more silvery, a lot more solid. They look like solid, like metal of some nature, some type of element. This one's like plastic. It's hollow. It is not solid, and it's not super well done. Not that big. And again, it's like a funhouse mirror material. It's like a plastic mirror type of material. So that's that. Sorry to burst your bubble. Still kind of cool. And if the aliens get upset that I called their thing cheap, oops. Just got out of the doctor's office. A little update on the health. The cardiac stuff, we're gonna take me in for a stress test where they do the ECG where they put the little shit all over you, and that sounds bad. They put the sticky little things with the wires, which you do with an ECG, except this time we're going to do like the treadmill and the whole thing. Physical exertion has not been a problem with exacerbating my heart issues, but they got to do it to rule things out. But it just hasn't been a thing, and with the climbing that I've had to do mountain biking, like, it's not a thing. But we got to do that. He thinks that what's happening is that he was saying, like, in the embryo stage, like, your gut tissues and your heart come from the same place, and sometimes your brain still gets all bunged up, and it thinks that your heart's hurting when really it's something in your intestinal area. And it was like, okay, and he's like, it kind of makes sense, because for years you've had acid reflux issues, and you take medication for it. So he thinks most likely it's something intestinal. Thing is, what was I going to say? Yeah, I have a globus. It's like a little, it used to be called globus nervosa, I think, which is like a little growth that was like in my esophagus throat area, and that has ended up being like a benign thing, but it grew years ago, like 5 years ago, 5 or 6, and they ended up having to do like a scope to make sure there was no, they had a biopsy and make sure there's no cancer and stuff. And I don't remember what the scope's called, the procedure, but it's horrendous. It's the worst pain, not pain, it's not the pain, it's just the worst feeling I have ever felt physically, ever, rather than being like, I mean, like, I felt really, really ill before, but I mean, this was like a, I don't know how to explain it, because you're very, it's just a horrible experience. They offered to put me under for it, but I didn't really know what it would pertain. So I was like, no, I'm fine, and then I really wish that I did. So this time around I might get put under, but I've never had to do that before, and because it's an unknown, kind of freaks me out, so I don't know. But that's going to be the next stage. And as for my ear issue which turned into a nose issue, because they gave me this nasal stuff with steroid in it to help my ear issue, and that caused me problems with my nose and like feeling pressure up here and like pain, especially on my left nostril. I stopped taking that nasal stuff like 3 days ago and told him about that, and he was like, yeah, and he checked out my stuff, and he's like, yeah, you got rhinitis. Not sinusitis, but rhinitis. And now I got to get another nasal spray and not drink anything cold for 2 weeks and run the humidifier and hope that it goes away. So that's that. Here's a sneak peek at this. It's not quite done, but I feel pretty good about where it is. Just need to as I'm looking at it now, I'm just like, we could do some different stuff and see what happens with it. I like that. The reason I'm showing you this is because I wanted to talk about this post that I made on my Instagram a couple of days, well, whenever you're seeing this, sometime in the past week, where I kind of vaguely talk about my process maybe shifting, and like I kind of talk about that yellow mustard or yellow ochre piece or whatever, and that big boy behind it, the blue and purpley plum, whatever. Because I have a picture of them like here, like against the coffee table, and I was saying that, you know, like my process has changed. I haven't felt like a real artist for a while, for months, and that it kind of led to this point where I've just begun to accept that my process has to be different, and it is different, and I have to adapt and be okay with that. And that's kind of, this piece is part of that, because normally, something I've talked about, even in like art classes and to students and whatever else, and just people in general, that my art, especially abstracts, tend to take place in one sitting, and that it was kind of an integral part of my artistic process. Not just because, like, I don't know what came first, chicken or the egg, right? Like, really intense emotional states that fueled my first abstract pieces before I knew anything technical about art. I just had my emotions. And coincidentally, I was using, well, some of that was fast-drying materials and some of it wasn't. But it just was a burst of emotion. And then later on, it was like I'm using fast-drying materials, and they just complemented each other. The style I was working in with the materials, and I've recognized that since then, years and years and years ago. And it was like, yeah, it's just part of the deal, just intense whatever. And I've mentioned, like, I cannot be in the same place emotionally from one day to the next. If you want to be very literal about it, I can never be in the same place emotionally from 1 second to the next, because there's minuscule, minute changes that happen within us. But definitely one day to the next, it's really hard for me even to bring about the same emotional space with music or other things that might aid me. It's just not the same. So then I find it very difficult, or I used to, and maybe I still will in the future as this transition progresses, found it very difficult to continue a piece from the day before the next day. It's part of it is also just because, like, the style of art that I enjoy making, the way that I layer things or mix colors or blend things isn't the same as, it's just, I don't like when stuff sits on top of something necessarily. That's a technical thing that I don't really know how to explain much right now. But it just wasn't what I liked in my artwork. So now just coming to terms with the fact that, hey, if I'm not feeling it, I'm not feeling it. I'm not going to force it. I can work on it the next day, and that's part of it. Like, the fact that I'm not in the exact same place, well, why does that one piece have to be one specific time capsule of an hour or two? Why can't it be that? And then the struggle and the push and pull of trying to resolve the piece when I come back to it next, and I might be feeling something completely different, but I would like to finish it, right? And that transition, that might be like, it might be 1 week until I get to try working on it again. So it's just something I realized and something that I'm experimenting with that I'm happy with and I want to talk about. So that's that. And that guy is brave. Well, I really took my time on this piece. I don't mean that it took like a really long time in the scheme of things, like with hours spent, but I didn't call it done for like 3 days or 3 different like visits in order to make sure it was done. It's something that I could have done in one, like I looked at it, I was like, I could do this in one sitting, and then I thought, well, no, I couldn't have, because I didn't do it in one sitting. So hours spent wise, it could have been done in one sitting, but that's not what happened. So then it couldn't have happened in that time for it to look exactly like this. I needed to wait for things to dry and layer things a little bit more and whatever. So the process of, you know, slowing down, quality control, that getting higher, setting the bar higher, not calling things done until they're done, changing what is done and how I figure out that process. It's good. Now I'm going to go and spray paint 3 pieces all at once and see how that turns out. Wrapping up the vlog. How long does lighter fluid stay good for? You tell me. See you another time. Oh yeah, there's a conversation about why I'm afraid of death, so you can check that out, because that's a thing.